Good evening, everybody. It's Lorraine Alternative Homesteading on July 6, 2025. It's Sunday evening. It's 11 p.m. here in Eastern Kentucky. And I'm going to have a mishmash of information. I was going to do separate videos, but I think I'm just going to do this one long video and then take a nice soaking Epsom salt bath, because the criminals have really been assaulting me with directed energy weapons. I will post some photos of what they have done to me recently in the on a post. You can only upload 5 photos, so I'll upload 5 and then maybe another 5. And you can see that like they're literally using me as a pin cushion. So I've got to get out of Kentucky. And we'll get into why we need to get out of Kentucky, because Kentucky is really messed up in every which way possible. But before I get into that, before I get into discussing the civil rights lawyer video, trooper indicted by feds, massive scandal implicates the head of the Kentucky State Police. This is huge, and this is not the first time. But before I get into that, I want to read some comments from you guys. So I received an email, and howdy Lorraine, I hope you're doing well today. I had a great time at last night's live show. Thank you. Yes, and thank you everybody for joining in last night. We kind of had a full house. We had like 40 people, I think. I think we had like 40 people in the live chat last night, which was really nice. I learned a lot from you guys, and we have some very interesting conversations. So let's see, I did a bit of writing again this AM and was thinking of you when I did, as it seems like a topic you would be interested in, but perhaps already aware of too. Anyway, here it is. And as usual, you're more than welcome to read it on your channel. The title here is The Do-Gooder Disorder: How High Morals Can Run Afoul with Government. Quote, the high scorers on this list might denote those possessing the most gravity when it comes to countering government, and along with it, garnering government attention, unquote. I remember a study in which on something like a country road and it turns, a rubber snake was placed in the road and a rubber turtle. Folks by and large ran over the snake, with one even backing up, placing his rear tire on its head and peeling out. In every instance, drivers avoided the turtle. I don't know if that would go over here. I don't really know. I know that people just hunt snakes here. You know, it doesn't really matter. That's what they do for sport. We recognize morality, its existence, its irreplaceable nature. We make assumptions about it, usually without realizing it. Most of us agree on its importance, and few question its value. More morality is better, right? Apparently, opinions vary. A science upstart named Lawrence Kohlberg, and I remember this actually, did some thinking on the subject and came up with the 6 stages he called, ingeniously enough, Kohlberg's 6 stages of moral development. And yes, I absolutely remember this. His model tries to do 2 things. 1, categorize individuals based on how they reason morally, and 2, track how that reasoning might evolve over time. So now subscriber went to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT categorized, the Kohlberg 6 stages of moral development as follows. Level 1. It's the pre-conventional, self-interest based. Stage 1 and Stage 2. Stage 1 is obedience and punishment. Do right to avoid punishment. Stage 2, self-interest in exchange. What's in it for me? At level 2, it's conventional. It's conformity-based. Would be stage 3, social approval. Good behavior equals social acceptance. Stage 4, law and order. Right equals obeying laws and authority. Now, this is where most adults stop. When you get to level 3, It's post-conventional. It's more principle-based. So then you got stage 5, social contract utilitarian. Laws are negotiable based on the greater good, challenge unjust systems. And stage 6, there's the universal ethical principle. Right equals internal moral logic, even if it opposes the law or society. Stage 5 plus is where you start seeing systemic thinking. You question systems, not just the actions. Self-authored morality. Ethics are rooted in inner logic, not external rules. Then there's the willingness to oppose authority for ethical reasons. 4 is the philosophical frameworks that integrate long-term transpersonal consequences. So how and where does the motivation for helping an old lady across the street turn into a concern for the government? Those that rank high on this list are straight troublemakers for government. They include whistleblowers, revolutionaries, those that would upset the political apple cart. Governments then prefer a bit of sleaze to their citizenry, a bit in the way of negotiable morals. Less Leave It to Beaver and more Sons of Anarchy. It's the potential effects of their high-scoring morality in this case. How, and even that, it can create grassroots movements, revolutionize thought in the minds of the masses, wake them up. Among us, they make up the civil disobedience leaders, investigative journalists, edgy moral philosophers. It's a potential catalyst for changing of the guard, and the PTB know it. The high scorers on this list might denote those possessing the most gravity when it comes to countering government, and along with it, garnering government attention. Intelligence can be sourced, money can be made, but a combination of moral clarity and cognitive independence produce a latent power that can't be controlled or predicted. They tend to be incorruptible, so special measures are required to deal with them. You guys can work out the rest. God bless all. And you know what? I think you're onto something here. Kohlberg's 6 moral stages of development. And when you get to stage 5, where people have an inner intelligence, where they think systemically and question the systems, question what's being presented to them. It's not just the actions, it's just the entire makeup. Then there's a self-authored morality. These are ethics rooted in your inner logic. Has nothing to do with external rules. And then, of course, there's the willingness to oppose authority for your personal ethical reasons. And the philosophical frameworks that integrate long-term transpersonal consequences. So this obviously is a concern for government, because you, let's say, are more motivated to helping that lady across the street. And it might be, she may be jaywalking, or the light could be red, and maybe she's halfway across the street, but you are going to help her anyway so that she doesn't get hit by a car. So this obviously poses a problem for, the powers that be. The deletes, the deletes. So if you score highly on this, then that would mean that you possess the most gravity when it comes to encountering government. And then garnering government attention, meaning if you question authority, if you're not going to bow to authority, you're going to question them. Just because they have a badge, it doesn't mean that they're moral, ethical, or upright, right? So in something that I read in the chat, it was brief, and I have it right here. It was a flyer that I printed out a while ago, and I just found it when I was cleaning up my papers. What to say when contacting a sheriff? Ask these questions. Are you going to uphold your oath and defend the people? Have you read the sheriff's handbook? Are you aware that it's your duty to protect us from intrusive government? Are you aware that you can form a grand jury and that you have the authority to arrest the governor or any public servant that is violating their oath of office? Like, literally, I would have a happy day if I saw our sheriff arresting our county lawyer. Oh, happy days it would be. That'll never happen, though. Are you aware that the only lawful authority exists after the passage through legislation? No mandate or executive order has ever to this day been voted on or enacted on by state legislator. Even if it has, we the people, quote unquote, can rely on the Supreme Court rulings such as Marbury versus Madison, 1803. Any law repugnant to the Constitution is no law. It has no force of law and can't be ignored. So these are very interesting questions to ask your sheriff. And of course, if your sheriff is involved in harming you, falsifying incident reports, gang stalking, quote unquote, community harassment, protecting your perpetrators, he will not be able to answer any of these questions. He or she will not be able to answer any of these questions. So that's very interesting. Thank you so much. And I wasn't sure if you wanted me to use your name. When you sent this to me. Unless you tell me, like most of the time, there are a couple of people that say, anything that I send you, you could read, just don't mention my name. So now let's get on to the civil rights lawyer. Now this is quite long. It's 24 minutes long. Obviously, I'm not going to play it all, but I can certainly share the URL because it's on YouTube. Trooper indicted by feds. Massive scandal implicates head of Kentucky State Police. So what happens is, this piece of crap, he's a piece of crap because he's been harassing people in the past, but they keep letting him go. The head of the Kentucky State Police know that this copper is a problem. They know that this trooper, James Cameron Wright, has been a problem maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5 times. And they keep letting it slide, but not this time. Not this particular time. And this is dated July 5th. Kentucky State Police Trooper James Cameron Wright has finally been indicted by the feds for multiple civil rights violations, which were not only known by his chain of command, but some of which were personally reviewed and approved by the literal head of the Kentucky State Police. This includes beatings, perjury, and more. The Kentucky civil rights attorney, Chris Weist, gives us the scandalous details, including exclusive new body cam footage of one of the incidents. So now, this is the civil rights lawyer. He always says to share, and let me see, he usually has a disclaimer at the bottom. So let me, okay, here you go. Let me read the disclaimer. Fair use notice. This video may contain copyrighted material, the use of which has not been specifically authorized by the copyright owner. We are making such material available for the purposes of criticism, comment, review, and news reporting, which constitute the fair use of any such copyrighted materials provided in Section 107 of the U.S. copyright law. Notwithstanding the provisions of Section 106, 106A, the fair use of copyrighted work for the purposes of criticism, comment, review, and news reporting is not an infringement of copyright. Note: we don't condone threats or violence of any kind. If you are upset or outraged by the acts of government misconduct featured in this video, we encourage you to utilize lawful means of expression, including becoming involved in the political process as well as seeking accountability through the judicial system. Also note that the information you obtain here is not, nor is it intended to be legal advice. You should always consult an attorney for advice regarding your individual situation, and we invite you to contact us. And we welcome your letters and electronic mail and other submissions or messages. However, contacting us does not create an attorney-client relationship. Please do not send any confidential information to us until such time as an attorney-client relationship is established and documented in a written agreement. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to see if I can post this up high enough for you to see it without, let me see here, so that I don't have to physically hold it. It might not work. Let me see. 1 second, guys. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to have to hold it. Just going to have to hold it, guys. Just give me a minute here. I'm going to switch. I have 2 little stands. One stand I like better than the other. It elevates it a little bit more, but sometimes... let's see here. Okay. So here we go. Trooper indicted by the feds. Massive scandal implicates head of Kentucky State Police.
I really just need a break this time, man. I'm serious. Like, I know that I'm doing...
What do I need to give you a break on? When a state trooper gives you a lawful order, you do it.
This is wrong. You're going to get fired.
On March 4th, 2025, a federal grand jury in Louisville, Kentucky, returned a federal criminal indictment. This is the story of Kentucky State Police Trooper James Cameron Wright. He was charged with 3 counts. 2 counts of using excessive force, and 1 count of perjury, lying under oath.
Once you had him on the ground, did you strike or hit him with a closed fist at all?
No, sir. He did not need to be struck with my hands or any impact weapon. But the story of this guy should send a shiver down your spine. Everybody, all the way to the very top of the Kentucky State Police leadership, knew that this guy was a bad cop.
So the cover-up goes all the way up to the current KSP commissioner.
Even with full knowledge of Wright's propensity to commit unlawful violence, and that he had lied about it under oath, instead of firing him, they gave him an award, Trooper of the Year. And as a result, he kept doing it over and over again, including to this guy, John Millett. And I'm going to show you the exclusive body cam footage of what he did to that guy that finally got him in real trouble. And only through the tenacity of a brilliant Kentucky civil rights lawyer, Chris Wiest, did the feds finally step in. I talked to Chris, and he revealed massive systemic problems within the Kentucky State Police. You need to hear it for yourself and share it with your friends, your family, because this is unbelievable.
All right, guys, it is time to stock up on Paleo Valley's grass-fed organ complex capsules. Right now, they're offering a huge sale of 50%.
We've always got the advertisements, guys.
It was March 12th of 2024, near the city limits of the town of West Point, Kentucky. Kentucky State Police Trooper James Cameron Wright was on duty in uniform in his marked patrol vehicle. Wright initiates a traffic stop for failure to signal. His dash cam is operating, and it shows him stopping the vehicle and then getting out and approaching the driver. Upon contact, he begins to suspect that the driver, John Millett, may be intoxicated.
Lost, bud? I believe so. I was looking for...
You seem like you're pretty lost.
Yeah, I was looking for somebody who was selling something on Facebook, and...
Where are you trying to get to?
It's...
You know where you're going without looking at your phone?
No, I was getting the address.
Where are you trying to get to, like, in general? Like, Marlboro, trying to get to...
It was supposed to be Mardraw, I think.
You're going wrong way then, bud.
Oh, okay.
You care to put the cigarette out while we're talking? Does it get sucked out the window at me? And I don't want to sit here and deal with the smoke from it. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Wright then asks Mr. Millett for his driver's license and insurance.
I get your driver's license insurance card on you?
I don't have insurance at the time. I just got my taxes, and I'm looking for car insurance rates.
Sure. Okay.
I'm serious. I really.
No, I believe you.
And
And Millett responds that he does not have insurance. And then he basically begs Trooper Wright, saying that he needs a break.
I really just need a break this time, man. I'm serious. Like, I know that I'm doing...
What do I need to give you a break on?
I'm doing everything wrong. I don't have tags. I don't have insurance.
Okay. I mean, I can deal with that. I'd be honest, I care about that stuff, but I couldn't care less about that compared to other things. See what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
nothing illegal inside a vehicle?
No.
So where are you trying to get to?
Not right.
Okay.
Then Wright asks Mr. Millett to turn his car off, to which he complies.
You don't care to turn the car off, right? Okay.
Wright asked Mr. Millett to step out of the vehicle so that he could talk to him. Wright then himself opens Millett's door as Mr. Millett begins to step out.
All right, here, step out and talk to me real quick, okay? No guns, no weapons on your person?
No.
Trooper Wright yells at Mr. Millett not to reach for anything, as Mr. Millett gently tosses an object that he had in his hands onto the passenger seat.
Don't reach for anything, you understand me?
Yeah.
Hey, you reach for anything.
Mr. Millett is seen on the body cam raising his hands and that he had a phone in his left arm. Wright grabs Mr. Millett's right arm. Wright again tells Mr. Millett to step out, even though Mr. Millett had already been doing so.
Step out.
With Trooper Wright having grabbed Mr. Millett to control him, and with Mr. Millett having his cell phone in his left hand, Mr. Millett's hands are still raised, demonstrating compliance.
Look, I was just grabbing my lighter.
Even though Mr. Millett did not resist Wright in any way, Wright bear hugs Mr. Millett and violently throws him to
Is
the
that
ground.
unbelievable?
Hey, I'm not even doing nothing
Put your hands
wrong.
behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
I'm not even
Roll
doing
on your
nothing
belly.
wrong.
Get on your belly.
And it was only going to get worse from there.
He's such an abuser.
When a state trooper gives you a lawful order, you do it.
But to understand how we got to this point and how this very footage resulted in finally getting accountability against this trooper, we have to go back like 5 years on the timeline, because this moment would not have happened but for all of the crazy things that happened before. Mr. Millett's lawyer, who filed a federal civil rights lawsuit just a few weeks ago, is going to walk us through that timeline because he himself was the lawyer who was involved 5 years earlier in trying to hold that trooper accountable back then.
March 6, 2020, there is a chase of a gentleman by the name of Justin Halcomb. Stops his video, steps out, puts his hands on his truck, and he gets piled on by KSP troopers, including Wright. Shoves his head to the ground, repeatedly and gratuitously strikes him as he's piled on by multiple officers. You've got hospital photos afterwards where Halcomb is jacked up and bloody as a consequence of this. So that's March 6, 2020. April 2, 2020, Wright is involved in the apprehension of a guy by the name of Thomas Davis. Davis is stopped. Wright opens the driver's door, throws him to the ground, even though he wasn't actively resisting, and then he is repeatedly and gratuitously struck. What is interesting about both the Halcomb and Thomas Davis incidents is they generate what is known as an RR report in KSP parlance, which is a response to resistance report. KSP policy is basically to criminally charge every single person that they beat or abuse with obstruction of justice or resisting arrest, specifically resisting arrest, regardless of whether or not, this is in their policy, regardless of whether or not they in fact resisted. If you use force on somebody, you're going to charge them. It's a cover. The policy, the cover-up is embedded in KSP policy. It's insane. The lieutenant colonel that's in charge of operations is now the KSP commissioner. And in that capacity, he is reviewing the internal affairs recommendations on these response to resistance reports. And he signs off on and approves that there was no unlawful use of force on both Davis and Halcomb, both of which a federal grand jury has found probable cause to arrest and charge these troopers with criminal use of force. So the cover-up goes all the way up to the current KSP commissioner,
Philip Burnett.
Philip Burnett. His signature is on these response to resistance reports.
the guy who is now the head of the Kentucky State Police, signed off on those uses of force as being justified or being lawful. And now, 5 years later, a federal grand jury has indicted Wright for both of those uses of force.
Correct.
This is how corrupt law enforcement is here in Kentucky. Because the troopers, the state troopers, they're like elevated, you know, they're elevated across the state of Kentucky. They dress differently. It's unbelievable. A lot of these guys, though, they're all jacked up on steroids. They're physically abusive. They're demanding. They're emotionally immature. And they're psychopaths. This guy has done this 5 times. And he lies about it. You'll see again when he's testifying, and you can see the expression on his face. He's completely lying.
Got it. All right. Timeline. April 9th, 7 days after the Davis incident, we've got the Alex Hornback incident, which you've reported on, I've reported on, we've got the video. They didn't know we had basement camera. They threatened mom and dad with arrest over the dad's cell phone video because they didn't want any of it captured. They both say they use no force, even though we've got video of it, both Zartworski and Wright under oath.
The Hornback arrest resulted in a civil rights lawsuit alleging excessive force. That was filed by Chris Wiest. When Chris took these officers' depositions, both Trooper Wright and also Trooper Zartworski, neither one of them knew that Chris had this video from inside the home that showed them striking Mr. Hornback. Since they did not know that proof existed that they did that, even though they were under oath at the deposition, they lied and said they did not strike him at all. Chris caught them red-handed committing perjury. Here you can see for yourself Trooper Wright lying under oath.
Once you had him on the ground, did you strike or hit him with a closed fist at all?
No, sir.
They always manage to insert a commercial at the worst time.
Or any part of your body?
Is that amazing?
Okay. And the reason that you didn't do that is that there was no more force that was required at that point in time to have affected the arrest, right?
He did not need to be struck with my hands or any impact weapon.
Maybe the craziest part of the story is what happened afterwards. In that lawsuit, the federal judge calls out these 2 cops for lying. So what do Kentucky prosecutors and the Kentucky State Police do as a result? Both cops, Wright and Zartworski, lied about unnecessarily beating and striking Mr. Hornback. But only Zartworski was forced to resign and indicted on state perjury charges, and ultimately convicted never to work as a police officer again. Given the fact that Wright did the exact same thing as Zartworski, why didn't any of that happen to him? He was not fired, he was not forced to resign, he was not charged. In fact, he was given an award for Trooper of the Year. You could not make this up if you wanted to.
Zartworski ends up being, ending his career with the KSP. He's put on probation for state perjury charge. He's never allowed to hold a law enforcement career. He was in the military as an officer at the time in the National Guard, I believe. Part of his probation term is that had to end. So he's taken out of positions of trust and confidence as a consequence of the perjury conviction. Wright, meanwhile, is allowed to continue, and in fact, is nominated by Burnett and others as Trooper of the Year, with knowledge of all of this going on.
Is that amazing?
Okay? So he's the pedestal guy that they're holding up, the perjurer. By the way, Wright was indicted for perjury by the feds recently for his same testimony in the Hornback case. So we've got all this going on, and it's being covered up. And in fact, they're holding Wright up as the Trooper of the Year in or around that time with knowledge of all of this. By the way, one of the things that we've also come to learn, and this is in the Millett lawsuit, is the person that was investigating these post-4 use of forces, there's a sergeant. The sergeant, by the way, was himself the subject of multiple lawsuits.
What is his name?
Yeah, it's, let me find it. Jeremy Mabe.
M-A-B-E.
M-A-B-E. Yeah, so Mabe's the immediate supervisor who is assigned to investigate most of these uses of force. And generally he is writing in repeated use of force investigations. The subject took a belated aggressive stance. And that justifies all these people getting jacked up. And Mabe is involved in the whitewash. So that's also going on. And there's a pattern of it, including the investigation of Halcomb and Davis, both of which are the subject of federal indictments at this point. Halcomb had whitewashed, bladed aggressive stance. So that's also going on. March 12, 2024, we've got the incident with my client, Mr. Millett. There is the traffic stop. I don't think there's any argument by us about the legality of the stop, nor is there argument by us about the legality of the arrest. It's somewhat apparent that, he had been drinking a little. And I don't think we take issue with that aspect of it, but we do take issue with the use of force. And so Wright's got body-worn camera. There's also some dash camera footage. My whistleblower, by the way, is prepared to testify that when KSP first got body cameras, one of the first people it was issued to was Cameron Wright, because they knew he was out there tuning up citizens, illegally, and they wanted, to kind of tone him down a little bit by getting him a body camera. It didn't stop him, obviously.
So turning back to the body cam footage showing what happened to Mr. Millett at the hands of James Cameron Wright, Wright had thrown Mr. Millett to the ground. Once on the ground, Wright demanded that Mr. Millett place his hands behind his back. So Mr. Millett did that. He immediately placed his hands behind his back.
I'm not even doing nothing wrong.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
But then Wright yells for Mr. Millett to get on his belly. Mr. Millett's hands are still behind his back at that point.
I'm not even doing nothing wrong.
Get on your belly.
Wright then yells again for Mr. Millett to get on his belly, and less than a second later,
Get on your belly.
Wright then deploys his taser. Wright's dashcam footage reveals not just one, but two separate deployments of his taser, where you hear popping noise for extended periods of time. Wright continues his taser deployment for approximately 10 seconds.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Do not move. You understand me?
After Wright ceases taser deployment, Mr. Millett flips to his stomach with his hands behind his back.
When a state trooper gives you a lawful order, you do it. Do not move. You understand? You are under arrest for obstructing and now resisting arrest.
No, I did. Your camera was shown.
Yeah, do not move.
I swear to God, it was shown.
I can smell weed. I can smell alcohol.
There ain't no fucking weed in the car.
Yeah, I can smell alcohol on you.
No, you ain't got no right to search my vehicle. I didn't do nothing wrong. I ain't do nothing wrong.
Mr. Millett is then handcuffed and pulled to his feet. Immediately after that, Trooper Wright again gratuitously throws Mr. Millett back to the ground, injuring him. Mr. Millett complains and screams out due to severe shoulder pain.
Do not dare try to go back towards that car.
Now, say your kid spills.
This officer, this trooper, is literally torturing this man. And you'll hear how much damage this trooper caused to this guy. Innocent guy, just a traffic stop. No big deal. No threat. Total compliance. This guy was getting off on torturing this guy. He's got a sadistic personality. He's a predator.
Juice on your shirt. You just toss it in the wash with an.
Why did you do this to me? My fucking shutter's broke, dude.
It ain't broke.
You just fucking slammed me.
Stand up.
You just slammed me and I didn't even touch you.
You tried to pull me back towards your car.
No, I didn't.
Quit pulling against me. You're going back down.
I have rights. This is wrong. You're going to get fired.
No, you're drunk. I can
No.
smell weed. And I'm about to search that car, so you better tell me what's in the
No.
car right now.
Basically, he just escalates a routine traffic stop into violence, just like he's done in all these other incidents.
Oh yeah, I think we're now like case 6 or 7 of this, that we know of, and frankly, there's a lot more to it. My understanding is he has generated over 100 use of force incidents, but we're still
Wow.
investigating that.
What happened with the criminal prosecution of Millett?
So he was charged with resisting and everything else. That gets knocked down. I think he pled to an open container charge and a reduced charge on the driving of influence charge.
At what point was the use of force questioned in the Millett incident?
Well, by KSP, because Millett goes to the hospital, right? Millett wasn't just tased. I think he was thrown twice. And as a consequence of all of this, he's taken to Baptist Health for treatment. Ultimately, he goes to the hospital. He's got a fracture of 7 of his ribs, a dislocation of his left shoulder. Obviously, when the taser strikes you twice, when he was tased twice, those probes go into your skin. It's like a barb that goes into your skin. So all that occurs. That's his physical injuries. Because
They broke, this psychopath, this predator, broke 7 of his ribs and dislocated his shoulder.
Because he is taken to the hospital, they have to do an RR report. And there's a discussion between him and the lieutenant at the scene. We think it's Lieutenant McKee, but I'm not 100% sure about that, so I've sued all the lieutenants. And they're talking about how Wright needs to respond to this to not, to not violate policy. Basically, they're talking about how it's on the camera at the hospital. There's this discussion with the lieutenant of like how to cover it up. That's pretty problematic.
How to cover it up.
Parcel with what's going on.
How to cover it up. So this psychopath, this James Cameron Wright, this bully trooper, has done this 100 times. He's got approximately 100 cases of excessive force, 5 of which resulted in some kind of a legal action. And meanwhile, all the way up the ladder, the Kentucky, the head of the Kentucky State Police approved all of this, even though the guy's lied, he's beatings, perjury, and still the head of the Kentucky State Police stands by his guy, even gives him an award. This is insanity.
Post 4 KSB. So, like I said, there's a pattern of practice issue here. Millett's admitted to St. Mary's Hospital. We've got 7 days of hospital admission records with all this treatment. And so, all that's going on as well.
He was hospitalized for 7 days as a result of this?
Yes.
Damn.
He's got broken ribs. Like, he's significantly jacked up as a consequence of this. We're getting ready to sue, and I was aware for a while that the FBI was looking into Cameron Wright as early in Zertorsky as early as 2021. I might want to mention Sergeant Mabe. We talked about him. He was sued in 2017 for a use of force incident and threatening to illegally arrest road workers. He was sued again. This is the investigator, right? This is the guy that's holding people accountable. Sued again for excessive force and false arrest, and Turner v. Mabe in 2020 in federal court. So, who's policing the people that are supposed to police the police? Like, when they're getting sued themselves. So, there's a problem here.
And then he did it again a few months after Millett.
Yep.
To this Blevins guy.
Yep.
Olive oil will make you fat.
Isn't that amazing? So shortly after this incident that landed the guy in the hospital,
I ain't gotta get out of here.
A typical traffic stop last June turned tense when a Kentucky trooper turned his taser on Dawson Blevins.
I was thinking he wasn't going to stop tasing me.
A lawsuit filed Monday claims trooper James became aggressive when Blevins didn't want to get out of the car. He eventually did, and that's when the situation escalated. In the video, Blevins is tackled and tased multiple times while expressing to Wright he can't comply with his orders.
Put your hands behind your back.
He was then maced.
Put your hands behind your back.
Yet another case of
Macing him in the
taking
face.
just a routine traffic stop, and when somebody doesn't respond quickly enough, throwing them on the ground violently. And
the guy has got impulse control issues. He's overly aggressive. He doesn't de-escalate. He escalates everything. And yet, he's still on the force. He's still on the force, and from what I understand, he's on leave with pay. They're still paying him while this lawsuit continues. He broke 7 of the guy's ribs, dislocated his arm, and then just months later, he pulls over this Blevins guy and is macing him, throws him to the floor and macing him. The guy is absolutely abusive.
Tasing them.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's the pattern and MO of this guy. If you look at the Second Amendment complaint that's been tendered, a lot of that information, particularly in paragraphs 77 through 98, discuss what the command staff knew of, how there was this systemic cover-up. That we're prepared to substantiate that by way of testimony. We got a KSP insider that's willing to point the finger all the way up the chain of command on this. And,
Well, I'm going to end here on this. It's absolutely horrific that this guy, this trooper, has gotten away with these excessive force cases and even given a commendation and award. And even through all of this, he's on leave with pay. It's absolutely absurd. Another reason why I want to leave the state of Kentucky. I mean, it's bad everywhere, But to think that at the highest level here, the person in charge of doing the right thing, the literal head of the Kentucky State Police, is skimming over this and allowing these beatings, allowing the perjury and pretending nothing's wrong, keeping this guy on the force. But anyway, there was one other thing I wanted to show you guys. It was a photo that I received a couple of days ago, and let me see if I can find it. You'll find it interesting. So this is one of our subscribers, SDL, and he said that he was being aerially harassed, and by that it wasn't just with a helicopter. They were actually drawing symbols in the sky outside of his window, and he sent me photos of what the symbols look like, and you're not going to believe this. Check it out, guys. There's one. There it is in the sky. I don't know, it looks like a Freemason symbol. There you go. Your tax dollars. Hard at work. Well, thank you, SDL, for sending these photos. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to tell you guys. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you, everybody, for joining in the chat, the live chat last night. Let's see. And I think that is it. Yeah, that's it for now. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I will post the link so that you can watch the civil rights video in its entirety, and in case you want to re-listen to this, because this is absolutely off the charts. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Signing off for now.